I think the best way to go about this one is taking a look at a few examples. We'll build up some knowledge along the way, and then finally we'll go over a real world use case. So I've been writing shell scripts for over 10 years now, and this is the first time I ended up using this feature, and I'm quite happy that it exists. So let's say we take a look here at the example use case, just for a couple of scripts here. So we have an array here of fruits, apple, banana, and then basically we just want to add a fruit to it and then echo it out. So let's go ahead and just play with this and just see what the output of this is going to be. So as you may guess, it's going to be apple, banana, and cherry. Why? Because we have them listed out here, apple, banana, and then we're adding a fruit, cherry. So this is just mutating a global variable, right? We have our global variable here, fruits, and then down here, we are just echoing it all out. And along the way, we're going to add this cherry one to it, where we're just going to mutate this global variable inside this function here, add a new item to it, and boom, there we go. Super easy, super nice. I've used this patterns millions of times in shell scripts, and I'll continue to use them in the future because, using Namerefs here, it's like not necessarily a better solution, but depending on the use case that you're working with, could actually be quite nice, especially if you want to avoid globals and avoid subshells like this. So the second example here, by the way, we're working with array variables here, but all this applies back to string variables too. It's just using array variables really paints the picture on how using Namerefs can be quite handy, especially in this example here that we're about to see. So if we go and just run the second example here, then we get the same output, apple, banana, cherry. Why? We still have the same global variable fruits here, and then we're also echoing it out here. And along the way, all of this changed because one interesting thing now is, inside a little add fruit function, notice we're not referencing this global fruits variable inside of here. Instead, we're just creating a new fruits local variable inside of this function here. And then we are just going to add this one fruit that we're passing in here, cherry, to it. And then eventually, same type of logic, we're just adding something to an array. And then we just need to return this array here. And then it's like, well, we need to basically reconstruct this into an actual array because, you can't really return an array with bash here. So yeah, in this case here, we're just going to basically override this fruits variable here, and we're going to get the output of that. And then basically this is going to be the new array here with the values, and then we get it out here. Already this is pretty convoluted and pretty difficult to deal with. And if I had a bigger code base doing this type of pattern a lot, I just wouldn't want to do this on a day-to-day. Now, in this case, you might be thinking like, why go through all the effort here? Like, why not just continue to use the global variable like solution number one here, avoid all the nonsense? And totally right. But there are some cases here where, maybe you just want to have this function in a different file, be completely decoupled away from this global variable, and then having this thing as a standalone function here where you pass in some arguments, maybe that could help you out. But yeah, we could do a lot better here, make things a little bit more clear using Namerefs. So same example, let's go and run it, and then we'll take a look here at what we're doing here. Same output here, apple, banana, and cherry. So check it out. We still have our same fruits variable up here, which is a global, referencing it down here, echoing it out, and then along the way, we're doing something a little bit different. So in this case here, super straightforward, right? We're just calling this add fruit function. What do we want to do? We want to add cherry here to it. And then we pass in the name of the variable that we want to mutate here. In this case, it is this global variable here. And this is where the magic happens with -n inside of here. And we're using it with local. This also works with declare as well. But here in this case, we're defining a new local variable only known inside this function here. And the second argument being passed in, that's the variable name here. Notice that we're not passing it in like this, right? It's by actual the name here. And then, yeah, we're just assigning that to here. And then we just mutate this as we need here. In this case here, we're just going to do the same logic as we did before, just adding this item to the array. And then boom, we get the mutated array back and we have our item there and everything just works quite nicely. By the way, I just decided to name this the lowercase version of the uppercase one. There's no convention here. You can name this whatever you want. But yeah, the next example here, and we'll go back to this in a second here. I just wanted to, quickly mention here, version 4 here, you get a circular reference warning by bash here. And then, yeah, you can see this is not good here if the local variable name happens to be the exact same name as the variable that you want to mutate. So you might want to avoid that. And depending on what bash version that you use, you might get a warning back. You might get an error. It really depends. I'm using bash 5.3 here. If you're on something like macOS and you brew installed bash, you should have a modern version as well. But yeah, I just wanted to call that one out on. You might want to avoid doing that. But yeah, this is super clean, much easier. It's kind of getting the best of both worlds here, where you kind of get this idea of, it sort of works like a global, but it's not really a global, kind of just be able to mutate this at will as needed. Maybe this could be a good idea to go over an actual real world use case of, when I decided to use this for the first time ever. So if I go over to my .files repo here, maybe do a search for, I don't know, skip list or something. So yeah, I was adding this feature to my .files where, well, maybe I should rewind here. Actually, it could be easier just to look at this in code instead of just like a git diff here. So if we actually take a look here at this code and I go to my install config, In here, we have all sorts of different variables related to different package managers, depending on what systems that you're using. The dotfiles support Arch Linux and Debian and Ubuntu and macOS as well. But in any case here, we have some packages for Pacman and, GUI version as well, in case you want to set up this whole entire desktop environment that you see here. But one pattern that I like to have here is, okay, you can define your own package list if you want to override what's in mine, but you can also do things like, maybe add some extras or skip a couple of here. So if I actually go to the install script really quick here, do a search for, I don't know, packages, Pacman, I guess, and then, maybe we'll go to the GUI version of this one. It's down a little bit more. But yeah, these are all different packages that you'll get installed if you run basically GUI mode here enabled. So you get things like Firefox and Ghosty and GIMP and all these other things. But, maybe you're not doing video editing, right? So maybe you don't want Kdenlive installed. It would be really, really, really annoying if you had to go into that install config file, grab this entire list of every single package, and then just remove Kdenlive from the list. So instead, like, I don't know, maybe a month ago, whenever it was, I added this idea of creating a skip list. And, here's how, extras work. So in this case here, I actually have an NTFS mount here because I did run Windows previously. One day I will reformat to be ext4, but for now, whatever. And then also my .files don't install Steam by default, but, maybe they will in the future, but it's super easy to add it. But now I also have this ability to do skip, right? So here, if you just wanted to skip Kdenlive, then you can just put it in here and you don't have to lug around that other list and, manage it yourself, keeping it in sync with my version, etc. So yeah, you can just do that. And to implement that, I used Namerefs to help me out. So actually, if we go to the install script, actually, I don't want to keep that in there, but yeah, if we go back to the install script here, what was it called? Skip packages, I think is the name of the function, sure. But then down here, it's like, okay, using that pattern that we just saw before in the other example here, before you install the packages, at least this, the .file script, it's going to present them on a screen and show you, and then it's going to install after if you hit yes to agree. But in any case here, I've got the skip packages function here where we're just passing in all those different variables that we saw here along with their associated skip list. Notice they're all being passed in, by name here, just a string. It's not the actual variable itself. But yeah, if we go back up to here to the function itself being defined, then we can take a look at this and just see how it all works. So it's not too long of a function. That's it up here. And I even wrote a comment to myself about the -n in here. Yeah, really what this is doing, it's, taking in that default package list. Here is the packages that we want to skip. It just loops over these and creates a new filtered packages list. And then down here, here's where the magic happens along with -n here because, there's two variables being passed in. Yep, we're using -n to basically create a pointer, even though it's not really a pointer. It's basically a call by name reference, whatever. It's a name ref. But yeah, down here, we are going to mutate that variable with the new packages filtered array. So basically this array becomes this array and boom, we have this nice little simplified approach where things work. Now you might be like judging me on some code here or thinking about things through, and yeah, you could avoid using two loops here by using something like unset, but Bash doesn't reindex your arrays, and I wanted to make sure that this array here is, a fully pristine, super nice array here with all the indexes lined up and everything good to go. So in that case, yeah, I do a second pass here just to build up basically a second array. I think it's a little bit cleaner. Yeah, down here, this is now super nice, right? There's no crazy, those versions that we saw over here with like the Subshell version. Don't need to do any of that here. Just a normal function call, mutate these. Well, technically the left one's being mutated here. So that's a real world use case. I'm kind of curious, like, do you have any use cases where you used this pattern before? And also, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer them. And yeah, if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. It really does help a lot. Thanks a lot for watching, and I will see you in the next one.